Hi, I'm Irene Samuels and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my texture take on the world of astrology. Well, at the end of this week we have a full moon lunar eclipse taking place in Leo, and it's part of a grand fire trine, so it's a very powerful full moon and lunar eclipse. Now when we're dealing with the lunar eclipse, it's a case of what's been buried needs to come to the surface, and it's here with the full moon, so it could happen in a very amplified, explosive way, that you can no longer pretend the issues that have been lurking at the back of your mind stay at the back of your mind. They need to be faced and to be dealt with. Now, as I said, we have this full moon and it's forming trines with both Uranus and Saturn, and they're both in fire. We have Saturn in Sagittarius and we have Uranus in Aries, so very powerful. So this full moon is about vitality, power, authority, confidence, and being really happy with who you are. But in order to really embrace the happiness, the moon is about the sensitive aspects of who you are, and it deals with the past. So this lunar eclipse is sort of echoing things from the past, or pulling you back in the past in order for you to deal with the past so that you can lead this very powerful future. I would describe this full moon lunar eclipse as you being the king or the queen of reinvention. It's time to reinvent yourself because the past has been pulling you back for far too long, and so the energies from the planets are encouraging you to stand up, to be counted, to grow a backbone, and to stand for what's really important to you. So when we're dealing with the moon, there's some sensitivity, for example, around how you were parented, how you were mothered. There's a sense of, the moon represents your inner child, and where your inner child, where you don't have a healthy relationship with your inner child, is where you then have tantrums, and when you can't get your own way because there's been something that's been suppressed or you've projected it elsewhere, and because you haven't dealt with it, it gets handled in quite a messy way. Now, if there were squares between the moon and Uranus and the moon and Saturn, with Saturn it would be the cynic who'd be pointing fingers at you, telling you to grow up and get a grip and be responsible. And with Uranus, if it was a square, it would be a case of, well, you know, you were abandoned in the past and so, you know, tough. However, fortunately, we've got this beautiful energy. We've got a trine going on between these three core planets. And so it's a very encouraging and supportive and dynamic and powerful time. Reason being is because Saturn is in Sagittarius and it's asking you to trust who you are. You are strong, you are confident, believe in who you are. You can equally be playful and you can be responsible. With the trine between the moon and Uranus, it's a case of stand up, you are different, own that difference. So that, you know, it might be shocking to other people, but for you to have this inner sense of harmony and balance, you've got to be who you are. And so with this full moon, it's inviting you to find the ways where you can still be playful because the moon's in Leo. So it's a case of, you know, play with me, encourage me, inspire me, and I can do that back to you as well. And the motto really is be bold, be confident, go for it. So very powerful signature. Alongside this, we have Mercury, and Mercury is sextiling Venus and Mars, and Venus and Mars represents the yin and yang, the masculine and the feminine that lies within all of us. And there's a conjunction going on between Venus and Mars is in its own sign, so it's in a very powerful position. So there's a sense that you'll be very definitive and very decisive over what you truly value. And with Mercury here, Mercury's encouraging you to speak your truth. Really honour who you are, stand for what you believe in. It's also a time because we've got the full moon and it's on the Valentine weekend, so it's an opportunity to really voice those deep, passionate feelings that you have for someone. You can articulate it verbally. It could be a time of, you know, passionate intimacy and sex and togetherness and bonding, which is great for all of us. So, you know, it's a sexy time ahead, as well as using your heart and your intellect. Now, the wounding element shows itself again because we have Chiron, and Chiron forms a yod with the Moon and Jupiter. So Jupiter and the Moon, there's a sextile going on between them, and then you've got Chiron, which is at the midpoint between those two planets. Now, Moon represents the feelings, family, wanting to be generous and harmonious and loving with your family, about having, you know, family ideals and being supportive of those ideals. And then we've got Chiron, and it's the yod, and so you know there's some level of pain around that in some way, shape or form that you have buried and suppressed. Now with the yod, because you've got the quincunx going on between the Moon and Chiron, and then Jupiter and Chiron, and so where you've got a quincunx, there's an awareness of these juxtaposed feelings, but you're going to have difficulty, or you may experience difficulty bringing it all together. Now, if you pull on the grand fire energy, then that's going to be a far smoother journey than if you pretend it's there, it's not there, and try and resist. And if you keep the overarching, the king and the queen of reinvention, how can I reinvent myself? So think about what are some of the concrete ways, things that you can do. You know, do you need to be having a conversation with somebody that enables you to soothe and you know, bring some peace and inner harmony? Is it that you need to be walking in nature in a beautiful environment? Do you need to be walking by, you know, water, the river, the ocean that soothes and calms you? Find your way to do that. We can see this played out on the public stage if we take America, for example. So there's lots of wounding that has taken place, and the wound has been to the American ideal or the American dream. And so the American family myth has been wounded because of Donald Trump, and you know, his version of principles are really at odds with a large section of the American population. And so there's been this backlash that we're seeing, you know, positive backlash against his ideals, which is a representation of this moon, his moon potentially being wounded in some way, and then this infantile behaviour that seems to be showing itself that really is at odds with this sense of Jupiter. Jupiter is inclusive, it's embracing of differences, of diversity, and so what we're seeing played out here in America is this wounding, and the yod is a great representation of it. Again, we're seeing Jupiter opposing Uranus, so this sense of equity and equality and social justice and law and harmony. Don't forget, Jupiter is in Libra, so it's a harmonious time. There's this opposition. And Jupiter is retrograde. So this sense of, you know, a firm set of ideals that are being imposed in a way that's out of sync with the rest of society. And that's what Uranus represents, the challenge to what's going on to Trump's executive orders and his laws. And we're seeing the judiciary stand up against him in terms of revoking them and allowing people to travel from around the world into America, which upholds the American dream. Which brings me to the question of the day, which is, what is the family myth that you're still carrying around from childhood? And you can apply that obviously to your own life, and then if we look on the political stage and in society, what is the family myth that's being carried forward, and is it positive or is it negative? And it brings me to the question of the day, the quote of the day, which is an Ethiopian quote, and it said, "You cannot build a new house for last year's summer." And so with this wonderful, powerful full moon lunar eclipse, the full moon means that we've come to the end of a cycle. We're about to enter into the new moon cycle. So what is it that you will be seeding and planting? And it can't be done on what was held or comes from yesteryear. So time for reinvention. Put your answers and comments in the comment box below. You know I always love to connect with you. Feel free, please, to share this episode with other people in your network. You can also upload it to your own personal video collection. You can like and subscribe to my channel. And also, if you're on social media, why don't you come and hang out with me on Instagram or Twitter? You can find me. My handle is always by Breen Samuels. Let's catch up that way as well. Have a fantastic time working through this full moon lunar eclipse, thinking about how you're going to reinvent yourself. And I will see you again on the next episode.